Bear. No beast is more beloved by the Deathermen than the bear. When the world was new, Deathermen gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded the secrets to Androil for wings. The hares shouted theirs to the treetops. The birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Deathermen's gift deep within their dens. They slept the months away in the company of their secrets and nothing else. When Deatherman discovered what had been done with his gifts, he snatched the wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into paupers. But the bears he honored for their steadfastness. Transcribed from a Dalish tale, 9-8 Dragon. Normally it is almost unheard of for bears to attack travelers. They are, in fact, so shy and so inactive during the day that most people never encounter a bear at all. However, should a bear be provoked, they are remarkably dangerous. The normally placid seeming creatures become enraged and can strike massive blows with their paws, capable of knocking a man off his feet. Giant spider. Giant spiders tend to appear in old ruins and other places where the veil has become thin because of magical disturbances or a great number of deaths. In such places, spirits and demons pass into the world of the living and attempt to take control over living beings, spiders among them. Not all scholars accept this explanation for the presence of these beasts, however. Some claim that the thinning veil allows magic to leak from the fate, tainting such creatures as the spiders to transform into larger and more potent creatures than they ever would have become naturally. While such spiders are known to possess powerful poisons and the ability to fling their webs at opponents in combat, studies of them have been few and the full range of their abilities are unknown. Is unknown, I would say. So, magic and religion, the maker. There was no word for heaven or for earth, for sea or sky. All that existed was silence. Then the voice of the Maker rang out, the first word, and his word became all that might be, dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. And from it made his firstborn. And he said to them, my image I forge you, to you I give dominion over all that exists. By your will may all things be done. Then in the center of heaven he called forth a city with towers of gold, streets with music of cobblestones, and banners which flew without wind. There he dwelt, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. The children of the Maker gathered before his golden throne and sang hymns of praise unending, but their songs were the songs of the cobblestones. They shone with the golden light reflected from the Maker's throne. They held forth the banners that flew on their own. And the voice of the Maker shook the fates, saying, in my image I have wrought my firstborn. You have been given dominion over all that exists, but by your will all things are done, yet you do nothing. The realm I have given you is formless, ever-changing. And he knew he had wrought amiss. So the Maker turned from his firstborn, and took from the fate a measure of its living flesh, and placed it apart from the spirits, and spoke to it, saying, here I decree opposition in all things, for earth sky, for winter summer, for darkness light. By my will alone is balance sundered, and the world given new life. And no longer was it formless, ever-changing, but held fast, immutable, with words for heaven and for earth, sea and sky. And last did the Maker from the living world make men, immutable as the substance of the earth, with souls made of dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. Then the Maker said, to you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied. From the fate I crafted you, and to the fate you shall return, each night in dreams, that you may always remember me. And then the Maker sealed the gates of the golden city, and there he dwelt, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. Threnodius 5, 1-18. 1-8, sorry. And in your heart shall burn is the name of a quest in Inquisition, the Imperial Chantry. There are those who will tell you that the Chantry is the same everywhere as it is here, that the divine in Val Royeaux reigns supreme in the eyes of the Maker, and that this fact is unquestioned throughout Thedas. Do not believe it. The Maker's second commandment, magic must serve man, not rule over him, never held the same meaning within the ancient Tevinted Imperium as it did elsewhere. The Chantry there interpreted the rule as meaning that mages should never control the minds of other men, and that otherwise their magic should benefit the rulers of men as much as possible. When the clerics of Tevinter altered the chant of light to reflect this interpretation of the commandment, the divine in Valroyo ordered the clerics to revert to the original chant. They refused, claiming corruption within Valroyo, an argument that grew until in 487 Towers, the Chantry in Tevinter elected its own legitimate and uncorrupted divine Valael, who was not only male, but also happened to be one of the most prominent members of the Tevinter Circle of Magi. This black divine was reviled outside Tevinter, his existence an offense to the Chantry in Valroyo. After 4 exalted marches to dislodge these rebels, all that the Chantry in Valroyo accomplished was to cement the separation. While most aspects of the Imperial Chantry's teaching are the same, prohibitions against magic have been weakened, and male priests have become more prevalent. The Circle of the Magi today rules Tevinter directly, ever since the Archon Nomaran was elected in 734 Storm, directly from the ranks of the Enchanters, to great applause from the public. He dispensed with the old rules of forbidding mages from taking part in politics, and within a century the true rulers within the various imperial houses, the mages, took their places openly within the government. The Imperial Divine is now always drawn from the ranks of the first enchanters and operates as Divine and Grand Enchanter both. This is utter heresy to any member of the Chantry outside of Tevinter, a return to the days of the Magisters which brought the Blights down upon us. But it exists, and even though we have left the Tevinter Imperium to the mercies of the dread Cunari, they still have endured. Further confrontation between the Black Divine and our so-called White Divine is inevitable. From Edicts of the Black Divine by Father David of Carinos, 811 Blessed. The Magisters, the Mages, are still the highest rank of Mages is still, or again, called Magisters. I know that only from Inquisition, I believe, but it is so. I think I should have known it from Dragon Age 2 as well, at the latest. Templars. Often portrayed as stoic and grim, the Order of Templars was created as the martial arm of the Chantry, armed with the ability to dispel and resist magic in addition to their formidable combat talents. The Templars are uniquely qualified to act as both a foil for apostates, mages who refuse to submit to the authority of the Circle, and a first line of defense against the dark powers of blood mages and abominations. While mages often resent the Templars as symbols of the Chantry's control over magic, the people of Thedas see them as saviors and holy warriors, champions of all that is good, armed with piety enough to protect the world from the ravages of foul magic. In reality, the Chantry's militant arm looks first for skilled warriors with unshakable faith in the Maker, with a flawless moral center as a secondary concern. Templars must carry out their duty with an emotional distance, and the Order of Templars prefers soldiers with a religious fervor and absolute loyalty over paragons of virtue who might question orders when it comes time to make difficult choices. The Templars' power derives from the substance lyrium, a mineral believed to be the raw element of creation. While mages use lyrium in their arcane spells and rituals, Templars ingest the primordial mineral to enhance their abilities to resist and dispel magic. Lyrium use is regulated by the Chantry, but some Templars suffer from lyrium addiction, the effects of which include paranoia, obsession, and dementia. Templars knowingly submit themselves to this treatment in the service of the Order and the Maker. It is this sense of ruthless piety that most frightens mages when they draw the Templars' attention. When the Templars are sent to eliminate a possible blood mage, there is no reasoning with them, and if the Templars are prepared, the mage's magic is all but useless. Driven by their faith, the Templars are one of the most feared and respected forces of Thedas. From Patterns Within Form by Halden, First Enchanter of Starkhaven, 880 Blessed, damn you. The Sacred Ashes of Andraste. Only one person witnessed Mafarath's betrayal, Havard the Aegis, a childhood friend of Mafarath. He accompanied his chief to the meeting with the Tevinters, not realizing what was planned. When he understood that Mafarath was giving Andraste over to be executed, Havard, unwilling to draw swords against his friend and liege, placed himself between Andraste and the Tevinter soldiers. The Tevinters struck him down, and Mafarath left him for dead. We've heard that, but yes, with the item, yes. Gravely wounded, Havard made his way to the gates of Minrathous to stop the execution. When he reached it, the terrible deed was already done. The armies on the plains, long since dispersed. Havard, cursing his weakness, gathered the earthly remains of Andraste that has been left to the wind and rain, and wept. When his fingers touched the pile of ash, his ears filled with song, and he saw before him a vision of Andraste, dressed in cloth made of starlight. She knelt at his side, saying, "The Maker shall never forget you, so long as I remember." The song faded, and the vision with it, and Havard was alone, but his wounds were healed. With new strength, Havard took the ashes of Our Lady and bore them back to the lands of the Almarian. I think I've already read it until there. Fearing the Mafra's supporters would defile them, Havard took the ashes of Andraste to a secluded place high in the mountains, and there he carved from the living rock an urn to hold them. Time passed, and the whereabouts of the urn faded from memory. Perhaps it was the Maker's will that only the most worthy should find his beloved's final resting place. Now we have only legends, such as that of the Chevalier Lothair, who quested to find the urn to save his dying daughter, and either found it in time to cure her or returned 100 years later, 100 years after her death. The ballads end less uncertain on that point. From Thedas, Myths and Legends by Brother Genitivi. The history of the Drydens. In the years following the siege of Soldier's Peak, all those who carried the Dryden name were hunted by King Arlen's forces. Our noble Dryden name was smeared, and all lands and holdings belonging to the Drydens were seized by the crown. The king feared that the rebellion started by Sophia would be kept alive by her loyal friends and family, and anyone with connections to the Drydens suffered greatly. It is little wonder, then, that the few remaining Drydens found themselves with no allies and nowhere to turn. Tovan Dryden, Sophia's brother and guardian of her young son, had no choice but to flee for Eldon. Tovan brought passage to Antiva on a merchant vessel, and travelled under the name Dirocha. Once in Antiva, Tovan set about building a new, quiet life for himself and his nephew. He started a small business and eventually made a name for himself as a trader. The Dirocha merchant family prospered, and the name Dryden was almost forgotten. However, in 815 Blessed, Sylvie Dirocha uncovered old documents belonging to Tovan and pieced together the family's history. In her pride, and perhaps her naivete, Sylvie reclaimed the name Dryden and returned to Ferelden. King Ireland lies dead, and the Dryden name lives on. Our family has survived, even thrived, since the death of Sophia Dryden. The nobles of Ferelden may still spit on the Dryden name, but we Drydens know that Sophia Dryden was greater than them, almost a queen and a hero of the people of Ferelden. From the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. Alright. Characters. Alistair is fascinated by magic, even as his life is defined by fighting its darker manifestations. He has a fondness for strange rune stones and figural studies of arcane creatures. That is the entry we got for his gift. Arl Eamon Guerrin. We've had that. He fell ill. That's a new sentence. He fell ill with a mysterious condition that even magic could not treat. Leliana. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace, and in that stillness I could hear the Maker. A lay sister of the Chantry, who can beat the stuffing out of trained mercenaries, would be notable enough, but one who also claims to have been sent to fight the Darkspawn by the Maker himself is unusual, to say the least. She joined Alistair and Sigyn in Lothering, insisting that she would prove useful. There is more to Leliana than had been apparent at Lothering, however. She spent much of her life as a bard in Orlais, a minstrel, assassin, and spy employed to the nobles of Valrio in their elaborate games of intrigue. Sofia Dryden. Sofia Dryden is Ferelden's light and her most brilliant jewel. Nothing on this earth can ever quench her fire. Aleister Sofia Dryden was the young Arlen's rival for the throne of Ferelden. Dryden was a strong and charismatic leader with much support from the Banan. When Arlen finally won the crown, Dryden refused to relent. She pushed her claim, was caught and accused of treason. Her sympathizers continued to support her, however. In order to appease them, Dryden was spared execution and forced to join the Grey Wardens instead. Dryden survived the joining and dazzled the Grey Wardens at Soldier's Peak with her leadership skills and charm. She eventually rose through the ranks to become the Warden Commander of Ferelden. Before Commander Dryden, the Grey Wardens were seen as a relic of an older time and an unnecessary drain on the nobles' coffers. Dryden, though with her political connections, reinvigorated the Wardens and rapidly increased their numbers. In the meantime, King Arlen proved himself a devious king, willing to go to brutal lengths to silence his opponents. Arlen's reign of terror grew worse with each passing year, and some of the bands approached Commander Dryden in desperation, begging her to intercede. She agreed, and thus was the rebellion against King Arland born. Arland learned of the rebellion and took steps to end it. He publicly suspended all tithing to the Grey Wardens and declared that they were no longer welcome in Ferelden. Some of the Wardens, mindful that they were supposed to remain politically neutral, felt disgraced by Dryden's involvement in Ferelden politics and left her side, even as the king's forces lay siege to so to speak. The siege took months and ended with the death of Sophia Dryden, from the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. Books and songs. Adventures of the Black Fox. Born Lord Remy Vascal in 863 Blessed, the Black Fox was a dashing thief and rogue who went on to inspire so many tales of his exploits that it is nearly impossible to determine today which are true and which are merely fabricated legend. Despite coming from nobility, he has become something of a hero to the common people. His initial exploits involved ridiculing the tyrannical and powerful Lord of Valchevin. Wearing a mask, he would appear in public and disrupt the Lord's plans to the point that the Lord angrily put a huge bounty on the life of this cunning fox, the origin of the nickname which stuck. That the primary bounty hunter who took the job, Carolus, ended up becoming Remy's lifelong partner in crime, only after nearly killing him several times, is one of the most popular tales told in taverns today. The story is often exaggerated to make Remy appear initially buffoonish until Carolus becomes so furious that the Black Fox's inexplicable ability to survive that the cunning Remy gains the upper hand, which impresses Carolus so much that the bounty hunter joins him. After years of terrorizing Lord's men and foiling his tax collectors, a favorite pastime of Remy's according to the Elysian commoners, Remy was supposedly betrayed by his lover Savannah de Montfort, in some versions of the tale a mage of the circle no less, and captured. After more than a year of torture, Remy was rescued from prison by his compatriots, including a repentant Savannah, and together they escaped Olay. In this period of Remy's adventures, he appears almost everywhere in Thedas. As his legend grew, more innkeepers and merchants were happy to claim that the Black Fox had visited their village or establishment and performed some legendary feat. If the tales are to be believed, Remy led the Lord's men on a merry chase. He became embroiled in political intrigue in Navarra, was hunted by the crows of Antiva, and was then kidnapped by a powerful mage in Tevinter. In each situation, Remy escaped death at the last moment, foiled the evildoer, and improved life for the poor and downtrodden. Then, inevitably, he rejoined his band of adventurers and moved on to the next land. His companions, Carolus and Savannah, the wise dwarf Bolek, and the tempestuous knight Sir Clementis, have each spawned their own individual legends over the years. The stories all agree that, at some point, the Black Fox disappeared. He and his fellow adventurers voyaged into the heart of Arlethan Forest, seeking the sunken city of the elves, and never returned. Many more of the tales that expand on what ultimately happened to them in that forest and postulate on how they could someday be rescued. From The Adventures of the Black Fox by Gaston Gerald, 911 Dragon. I must have read that because it's marked. I'll just believe I did. The First Blight, Chapter 1. Thedas is a land of fierce diversity, from the assassin princes of Antiva to the faded griffins of the Underfells, but in my travels I have found one tale that unites the people of this land. It is a story of pride and damnation, and although the telling differs, the essence of the tale remains the same. At the height of its power, the Tevinter Imperium stretched over much of Thedas, uniting the known world under the rule of the tyrannical Magisters. It is said that the old gods, for whom the Magisters worshipped, gave them the knowledge of blood magic, and the Magisters used this forbidden power to cement their rule. The blood of elven slaves and humans alike ran down imperial altars to fuel Magister greed. The tales of the excess is so horrifying that one can only be grateful that blood magic is prohibited today. But all that stands tall must eventually fall. Perhaps they foresaw their ruin, or perhaps their pride knew no bounds. But whatever the reason, the Magisters dared to open a magical portal into the Golden City at the heart of the Fade. They sought to usurp the Maker's throne, long left unattended in the Golden City after the Maker turned his back on his creations. They would storm heaven itself with their power and become as gods. That is what the Chantry, in its oft-exercised tendency to understate, refers to as the second sin. According to most versions of the tale, the Magisters did indeed reach the Golden City and walked into the home of the Maker, when no living being before them had dared or been able to tread. But humanity is not meant to walk in heaven. The Magisters were wicked with pride and other sins, and their presence tainted the Golden City. What once was a perfect, holy citadel became a twisted home of darkness and nightmares. The Magisters were expelled back through their gateway and cast for their treachery. As the Golden City had been tainted, so were the Magisters twisted and transformed into things of darkness, the very first of the Darkspawn. The Golden City, once a shining beacon at the heart of the Fade, became the Black City, a reminder of all that old man's pride had caused. From Tales of the Destruction of Thedas by Brother Genetivi, Chantry Scholar. A letter from the Blackstone Irregulars? Haven't I read that? I don't think so. A letter written in careful script addressed to you, to the inimitable Grey Warden. Your deeds have spread since the tragedy of Ostergar, and I find myself in need of such a one as you, of one such as you. I am Raelner, captain of the venerable Blackstone Irregulars, and I hope to win your trust. The Irregulars have come on hard times since the war with Olay, but I have fought to improve their reputation. Gone are the days of my father's shady deals with unscrupulous nobles in Denerim. No, I have trained a guild filled with honourable men, ready to fight for Ferelden, and I am proud to say that I have seen your own Grey Wardens as a sort of model. We are not perfect. My own son advocates a move back to the more lucrative way my father ran the guild, but we are steadfast. It is in this context that I ask for your help, and I promise that we will reward you accordingly. Should you be willing, please find letters in this box and others like it all over the land, and carry out the requests therein. For this matter, consider requests from my son as if they came from myself. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart, whether you choose to assist us or not. You are doing the Maker's work, Warden, and I am honored to work with you, Raelner. This letter is marked with the seal of the Blackstone Irregulars. Blackstone letter of inscription. No, conscription. What's wrong with me? Dear friend, you are receiving this letter because you or someone else placed your name on an article of conscription, thereby pledging your life to the Blackstone Irregulars. With war looming on all fronts, the Irregulars must build their numbers. We are forced to call upon those who have sworn their assistance to make good on those oaths. Say farewell to your friends and family. While you may return to them, you must prepare them for the possibility that this will be your last day together. Your sacrifice is appreciated. Tauran. This letter is marked with the seal of the Blackstone Irregulars. So, how does that work? You or someone else enters your name? While you do it, that's okay, but someone else? Really? Oh well. Crafting. Yes, I know that I can craft things. Thank you, Codex. I know I have a camp, and I know there are specializations. Alright, nothing new there. This was Salvatia and the Codex. Weiter.